smile. Who else has got a great smile? I can't see yours behind the mask. You have beautiful eyes. What a special treat for me to be here. Let me get your names, please.
Tristan. Christian. Praise.
Two.
No, mine is Christian. He's Tristan.
Tristan, okay, sorry.
Praise.
Great, beautiful.
Avery.
Austin.
Sophia. Sophie.
Sylvester.
Connor. Blake. Lila. Gavin. Bella.
Beautiful. Lovely to meet you. I have a niece with that name. Lovely name. What a treat for me to be here. Guys, I was here many, many years ago. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Of course, all those students who sat here, they're probably all either doctors or lawyers and everything now. You know how time flies, and we're so excited to meet new students that are here in Englewood. How many people here live in Englewood? Oh, that's wonderful. And where do you guys live? Give me some towns.
I live in Newburgh.
Newburgh? Teaneck. Hasbrook Heights.
Lodi.
Lodi.
Westwood. Fort Lee and Hackett.
Fort Lee. So it's mostly Bergen County. Yes, we know.
Allendale.
Allendale.
We're all Bergen County.
That's wonderful. All over Bergen County. You like coming to Englewood?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. See, I grew up in New York, and I wasn't quite sure where I was going to end up, and that's my wife in the back. I was negotiating.
Hi, everyone.
I was negotiating to see where I would end up, and thank God I ended up in this beautiful city named after trees. My wife Amy and I have 4 children, and they were all like you guys at one point. Now they're all married, and they're beginning to have children themselves, which is kind of exciting. And I'm very happy to be here. What a beautiful school this is. Yes?
I was in the wedding this
You were at a wedding? That's nice. It's exciting, isn't it? I'm married 32 years. Best decision I ever made. Hopefully she doesn't wake up one day. You know? So, do you have some questions for me, guys, or do you want me to just talk a little bit about Englewood?
I mean, part of their main questions are, what are your responsibilities as the mayor of Englewood?
Wonderful. So, we have, like every other form of government, you have the federal government. Who's the leader, the executive of the federal government? Who's the
don't
leader of
embarrass
the
me.
nation? Huh?
We just talked about this
Yes.
downstairs, my friends.
Joe Biden, President Biden. He's the executive. He's the president. Who makes the laws in the United States? Yes,
The lawmakers.
the lawmakers. That's right, sweetheart. What are their names?
Legislative.
Legislative branch. So the executive executes on the law, the legislature makes the law, and that's the United States Congress. There's 2 senators from every state. That's the United States Senate. And then based on population, you have members from the different populace based on how many people that each state has in the House of Representatives. And then you have the courts. What do the courts do? Yes?
They have like, if somebody commits a
Crime, that's right. Then they make a determination if somebody's guilty.
Yeah.
Right, good, yes.
Cases.
Cases, that's right, yes.
Decide between
The 2 sides, right? They make a decision. I'm a lawyer, by the way. That's what I do in addition to being a mayor. So in the federal government, you have the president who executes on the law, the legislature that makes the law, and the judiciary, the courts, that decides and opines whether or not the law was being executed properly in a particular case or controversy. That's the federal government. Then you have state government, the same thing. In New Jersey, we have a governor, right? Isn't he like the president, but he's the head of the state? And then you have the state senate and the House, the assembly, which is based on population. And then you have the courts, also that adjudicate or they decide cases and matters. And then you turn to municipal government. And that's where we are here. I'm the executive representation. I execute on law. The city charter gives me certain authority to make appointments. I marry people. I break ties if there's a vote. And I select the person who's in charge of the Office of Emergency Management. People who sit on quasi-judicial boards like the planning board and things like that. And it's a lot of fun. The people who make the law in Englewood, it's the city council. We have 4 wards, 4 parts of the city. So each ward elects their own city council representative, and then there's a councilman at large that's elected citywide. When I'm up for election, usually that other person is up also. And then we have the municipal court. So somebody speeds through a red light and he says, it was yellow when I went through, and the officer says, no, it was red. They go before a municipal judge. So the executive is the mayor, the judicial is the courts, and the legislative body that makes laws, but in a municipal setting, it's called an ordinance. You don't make statutes, it's a different rule. Ordinances are made, and then I have to sign them. And you have all these checks and balances. You don't want the same person to be able to do everything. You want the person who's making the law to have certain privileges, and the person then who has to make sure that they're being executed properly has a different authority. You want what's called checks and balances on the system. I'm actually the longest standing mayor that the city of Englewood ever had, which is a real privilege for me. Thank you. We have, if you just walk in our city, you'll see people come from all walks of life. We have older people, we have younger people, we have people of all religions, all colors, all cultures, and I take great pride in that diversity that the city has. It's very rich, and it makes for a great flavor. You ever take your favorite food and you put it all together, and then you see something else that you like and you put it in there, whether it's an Irish stew or in my faith we call it a chillin'. It tastes really special, and that's exactly the city of Englewood, because it's got everything in it.
Awesome.
Thank you for your question.
Good. Another question we had is, why did you want to become the mayor?
With the stroke of a pen, you can do so much more in public service than you can do privately. I never defined making money as being successful. I defined success in making people happy, smile, and happy in life. My brother is a rabbi, and I turned into public service. We like to help people around us. Our parents brought us up not just to care about ourselves and our families, but about the community around us. I was walking up my block this morning. I dropped my granddaughter off in her school, and there was an older woman who had left her garbage can out. I opened it, and I looked inside. I saw it was empty, and I brought it back to her home so she didn't have to get out and do it herself. That's exactly what being a mayor is. If I see something and I want to do something about it, I can help people. And that's the opportunity that each of you will have one day. Whatever you do, you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, somebody involved in engineering and science, math, whatever it is, do something that will help you, but will help other people around you too.
Awesome. Great. I thought this was an interesting question from one of our students. Do you ever get nervous when you have to talk in big groups or when you're handling situations, out in government?
I was very nervous. When I was your age, I was very nervous. I didn't know how to speak in front of other people. I didn't quite know how to get comfortable when people were calling me. When a teacher would call on me, I would get embarrassed in front of all the students. And then I began to close my eyes when I got older, and I began to realize that I had what to say, and just had to imagine that I was in a room by myself when I spoke. And I prepare more than most because I still get nervous. I have speeches that I write down, and then I find, and if you ask my wife or my closest friends, they say I do much better like this when I don't read from a speech, and I just speak from the heart. And I imagine that I'm in a room with just one person, and then I speak, and I surmount it. So if you have a nervousness about reading, writing, math, speaking in front of other people, now's the time to deal with it, because as I got older, it was a lot easier for me. And sometimes I don't have a chance to prepare, and you have to just think and speak from the heart. And that's why I think politics is such a beautiful experience. For many people that love public service, it's a natural effort if they're inclined to help other people around them. In my professional life, I'm a lawyer. I'm an immigration lawyer. My father started our law firm. We do visas, green cards, and citizenship. Those are permission documents to stay in America. He was actually the lawyer for John Lennon from the Beatles. I don't know if you know who the Beatles are. Many people of your generation may not realize that. The President of the United States wanted to deport this very famous rock and roll artist because he was in favor of peace and love. and my father didn't know who he was and helped change the law for him. And then President Obama used that law to help 1 million people years later. They're called dreamers. And I have the privilege to have learned under the watchful eye of my own father, involved in my law career. And you know what he does? He writes with a pencil. Why do you write with a pencil and not a pen?
Ooh, I love
Why?
that.
Because if you make mistakes, then it cares.
And he said to me, Michael, he's in his 80s. We practice law, we never perfected it. I keep learning from my mistakes. So to see a man who's 89, so proud to be learning all the time, means when he was your age, he loved going to school. So those are my role models. Those are the reasons why I love to do what I do also.
That's
Yes.
really cool. Awesome. Great answers. All right, so we spend a lot of time learning about persuasive writing, right? So that's like a style of writing that we learn about. And we assume that you get a lot of proposals, right, on how to spend the money in your budget and things like that. Like, what are you looking for when you get proposals, or how do you decide how to spend the money?
So it's called the pitch. You know how a pitcher is about to throw something at you, a pitcher? It's called the pitch. When somebody wants something, they're gonna throw something at you. So when you catch a ball, are you excited to catch the ball?
Yes.
Yeah, so then you have to think, on the receiving end, if somebody's throwing something at me, what's gonna make me excited to get it? So if you're the pitcher, you have to think of what you want the person on the other side, what they really want to hear, what they need. So when you get a request for a proposal for something, or somebody wants something from you, you have to think who your audience is. And you have to think in terms of what that person wants. So if you have an older person, and I walk into a room, I'm gonna be thinking about safety, right? An older person's gonna wanna hear about lighting when they come out of ShopRite. They're gonna wanna make sure the sidewalks are good, that they can afford their medicines. When I come into a school like this, children are gonna wanna learn what's ahead of us. What's down the road? Is there going to be a safe community, a healthy amount of good air and trees when I'm growing up? And what's the world gonna be like when these old people get finished with it? Am I gonna have to fix all that? Or am I gonna make it better? Or is it gonna get worse? So you always have to be thinking 2 steps ahead of you. You know, I met a photographer once. You know the famous picture at Ground Zero 9/11 when he was putting up the flag and there were firefighters? It's a very famous thing. They made a stamp out of it.
Yeah, I'll show it to
The
you guys
American
in a minute.
flag, and you can show it to them. And I met him, you know, when I was being sworn in for mayor. He was the photographer the first time. I was watching him. Well, everybody was talking fancy. I watched the photographer. As 2 people would shake hands, he would go like this with his camera. And then he would just click the picture. And then the next day I would see that on the front page. Because he anticipated where the people were coming and that their hands would be shaken. And he got the picture with the seal of Englewood, with the flags and the handshakes, and sure enough, it was the money picture. When you are trying to get somebody to agree to something, you gotta think of where everything is lined up and be the money picture. Okay?
Awesome. Let's see. I was listening, so I didn't prepare my next one. You have a busy life. You are a lawyer, and they want to know, how do you organize your time? Like, how do you figure out what you're going to do?
Some would argue that as I get older, it's harder to organize it, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm in Manhattan and I see clients and law firm matters, helping people come to America. Thursday, Friday, I'm in Englewood. And I'm marrying people, cutting ribbons, and welcoming businesses, making appointments, and I have office hours at City Hall. I also teach in a law school Wednesday nights from 4 to 8 o'clock at night, and I'm an EMT, an emergency medical technician, with a volunteer ambulance service called Hasala. In Hebrew, it means to rescue, and I help people in medical calls.
Wow.
So on the way into Manhattan, on the way out, when I'm in my office, when I'm at City Hall, my wife has my radio back there. The radio's always on. If there's a medical call, the call goes out. There's a certain code if I'm close to it. They'll ask me if I want to go directly or get the ambulance and bring it there, because one day when we're finished in this world, there are no pockets where they take us. And I'm going to be judged by the good deeds that I did, not by the amount of money that I made. And most importantly, guys, my kids, they watch what I do, not what I say. So all I do is do fancy things, get in the newspaper, make money as a lawyer, but I'm not helping strangers. That's not what they're gonna do in the next generation of their lives. So I have a busy day, but in many ways, I'm, thank God, able to do it.
That's wonderful. That's very cool. Englewood, are there any projects that you've done here in Englewood that you feel very proud about?
Yeah.
Or any upcoming projects that you're excited about for the
So
future?
if you go to the Central Business District, you'll see that there's a lot of new stores, and a lot of those stores are experiences rather than selling things. Right now, if you call Amazon or go online, they'll bring you anything that you want. So a lot of the stores in town are actually more experiences. So I have to tell you that we're very proud to be welcoming new companies and new businesses. We also had a major flood with
Yes.
Hurricane Ida. A lot of our residents lost their homes and had to move. So we're working very hard these days to make sure that we get all sorts of services into the city to fix the broken streets, to make sure that we clean out the culverts where the water is. So there's improvements that you'll see when you go to the central business town of the city, and there's improvements in the waterways and the things that you won't see that we're very proud about. I'm also very, very fortunate to have wonderful people at City Hall, a city manager that does the day-to-day work, looking to make sure that our fire, our police, our ambulance service, our public works is stellar. So if there's a tree that falls, we get it. If a brick comes up, we get it. And if a police officer or a firefighter needs something, that we get what they need as well. All I can say to you is, I'm so proud of the police officers and the firefighters that Englewood has. They are not only people that will take your safety in order, but they're wonderful role models. So if you see a police officer, if you see a firefighter, just thank them for their service, because it's for their grace and our protection that they serve. And we're very lucky to have a wonderful department.
We do. They come and visit us every year. They're
That's
very, very
wonderful.
sweet. Yeah, awesome. Well, those were all the main questions I had.
Sure.
Is there anything that you would like to communicate to them?
So any questions from you guys at all directly? Anything that you're
Anything you guys
curious about?
thought of while we were talking that you think would add to our conversation?
Yes.
What do you do in your office?
What do I do in my office? Well, first I love to color. You know that? I have no creative time. So I get myself color pens and pencils, and when I'm sitting listening to clients, I'm actually coloring sometimes. Or if I'm on Zooms and they take a long time, because I try to bring color. I love music also, so I make sure in all my offices there's music in my room, so that when I'm not with a client, my favorite music and songs can be heard as well. The rest of the time in my office, I'm meeting new people. Mostly people with accents who come from all over the world, and we bring them into the United States. They can be chefs, soccer players, basketball stars, baseball players, lawyers, doctors, engineers, and they're just wonderful people who are looking to have what we have, and that is a part of the American dream.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Where did you get your education?
My education, I went to Queens College in New York. I went to Cardozo Law School in Manhattan, and that's where I teach. I actually met my beautiful wife in my father's class when he was my professor. And then when Dad retired from teaching, I started teaching, and 2 of my 4 kids took my class in the law school also. But education is critical. My advice, go to the best schools that you can get into. And enjoy school. If I had to do it all over again, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. I was in such a rush to work in my dad's law firm. I went to college 8 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, 2 days a week, so I could work in the law firm those 3 days. Maybe I would have taken a few more coffees and times with professors and spent more time. So my advice is learn to love reading and education. Because it'll be the last time, no matter what you do later in life, that you'll be able to know so much about everything else that matters. And that's what you have to remember, everything matters. And that's why you have to make sure that you elect people in City Hall, in state government, and in the federal government, as we spoke, that will make sure that you have a very good, healthy life around you. Yes?
Do you have a favorite song?
Yes. My favorite song is Imagine by John Lennon. And you can say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. John Lennon was a visionary. He was part of the Beatles, a band, and if you go online later when I leave, put in my last name, and my father's first name is Leon, and you'll learn all about what my father and our family had to do with that wonderful singer. But he had such a beautiful voice. His wife is still alive. She's my dad's age. She gave us permission to use that song on our hold music. So when clients call our office, sometimes they say, "Can you put me back on hold?" And when you hear the music.
That's great.
Yes.
Is there anything else you wanted to be before you became mayor?
Yes, I wanted to be an FBI agent. I really did. My favorite number growing up was 24, because that's how old you had to be an FBI agent. But I didn't become an FBI agent. I became a federal prosecutor. I worked for the Justice Department deporting bad people from the United States, and it was an absolute wonderful dream for me to work for the government. That's what I wanted to be. I didn't go to the FBI ultimately because I fell in love with my wife, and I'm glad I had those years with my mom. She passed away very young. Had I really been dispatched at that young age, I wouldn't have had the privilege to be here today, because everything good I believe that's happening to me is mostly because of those two ladies, my mom and my beautiful wife. Yes?
My birthday is July 24th.
Cool. Excellent day. Let's see, July 24th. I can't visit you because you'll be in camp or something, right?
They might be here. We do a camp.
Hasbrook Heights, is that where you live?
That was your birthday.
Newburgh, that's right. Happy birthday, Susan. Yes?
What are some things that you have to take care of as being mayor?
Some of the things that I have to take care of as being mayor is number one, and the most important thing is answering phone calls every single day. If you don't return phone calls, it's rude. Number two, when there are big events, being there. Number three, when there are little events, being there. I do coffee with the mayor every Friday. You can watch it if you like on Facebook. You go to the library's Facebook page and you can watch me talk to the community about everything that's going on in the city of Englewood through the last week. Other things that I do is I appoint people to boards, the Environmental Commission, Library Board, and others. I also break ties. If the city council argues and they don't know what to do, then I come up the middle and I make a decision. And I also have the privilege, like I said, of marrying people and physically greeting people as the city leader into the city of Englewood. So if there's a new business in town, if there's an older person, when a person turns 100, I try to meet them in their home and name the day after them. Or if there's a very famous person that passed away, or we want to honor somebody while they're alive, we name streets after them. It's my privilege to officiate and go to those events. Yes?
Is there anybody that you acknowledge or like admired in like when you were our age?
Yes. Well, who do you admire?
The Rock.
The Rock. Why do you admire him?
Cause he's so inspirational. Cause he proves to people that like he could do a lot of things, and that so can you.
So I happen to have the privilege of representing the Rock stunt double. And when I went out to dinner with the Rock stunt double, everybody thought from the distance that it was the Rock. Because he's literally built with the same height, the same haircut, if you can call it hair, and muscles, as I like to call him. But he was an inspiration. I had a lot of people that inspired me. And some of them came from different walks of life. Some of them were people that I knew, some of them were people that I admired for their talents. I'm a big Elvis Presley fan. The kind of presence that Elvis had in his younger years appealed to me. And John Lennon, as I said, was somebody that I aspired to. Dr. King is somebody that I admired and loved. I wrote a paper about Dr. King in high school, in college, and in law school. But my inspiration, my role model growing up was my father. He's not well now. He's 89 and a half years old, and he can't really speak. But when I sit next to him, I hear him screaming at me. I hear him saying how proud he is. I hear him saying the things that I'm doing right, I should continue, the things that I know I should be doing differently, I should work on. And that role model inspires and speaks to me for the rest of my life. So I'm happy that you have such a role model in your life too. Yes?
What do you do in your free time?
In my free time. I usually apologize to everybody else in my family that I only have that short window of time for them, so I start off my free time with an apology. It just happens. That's how it is. I spend time as much as I can with my grandchildren. My free time, I love seeing them. I have 3 granddaughters, Abby, Evie, and Romy. One's more delicious than the next. They're 2 years old, and about 7 or 8 months years old. We have another grandchild on the way over. I pinch myself sometimes when I see them, that I have the privilege of seeing them. They're the future, and it's an exciting time. And when I have free time and they're not around, I like to read, I like swimming, and I love movies. I have a movie theater in my house, and I love old movies. Now, what you might consider old movies isn't what I like as old movies, but I like to be inspired by great acting and wonderful stories and history. I love history. So reading about history and watching these documentaries that record history, it's all about educating yourself, because you don't know how much you learn. All the books that you read in school is a snapshot of what you're going to see later in life. You know, my grandparents came from a very difficult time in Europe, from the Holocaust. And they have the letter J on their passport because Hitler God should erase his name from history, had the letter J on each passport because he wanted to kill every Jew he could. And my grandparents survived and came to America. And their grandson is a mayor and is helping other people come to America. This is a beautiful place of great promise. So I love to read about history, and I love to speak about it and make sure that everybody learns so that we don't make the same mistakes, and we are inspired by the people that are very special.
That's awesome, thank you. Good one.
Yes?
So when you said you were an immigration lawyer,
Yes.
so you would help people who are in like different countries.
Come to America, or if they came here illegally, or if they came here legally, figure out a way to stay here. Generally, they can stay if they get a sponsor for a job, a family relative, or they make an investment in this country. So it's during the pandemic to me, it was like Netflix. It was all Zoom, and I would turn on my screen, and each day I was with somebody from Brazil, from the Dominican Republic, from Russia, from the Ukraine, and 1 hour kind of movies for me, where I get a sense of what their journey is. We tell them what we need to do, what the fee will be, and then we get them into these planes. And it's just a beautiful journey, because America's golden doors are wide open. I wrote a book on immigration. It's on Amazon. For those of you guys one day who may want to look at it and read it. And it talks about some of the fun stories that we've got involved in, very special stories. Yeah.
What's the name of your book?
Safe Haven in America, Battles to Open the Golden Door.
Okay.
Yes,
Do you meet with other mayors?
I'm sorry?
Do you meet with other mayors?
Do I meet with Mother Mary?
Other mayors.
I'm sorry,
Other
oh, do I?
other.
I'm sorry, you're wearing a mask. Do I meet with other mayors all the time? So, I like a cigar too. So there's a cigar place in Englewood, so I meet with a few of the mayors and we get together and we talk. Don't tell anybody. I like also to spend time with mayors when they have special things going on in their communities, and then I invite them to come into Englewood also. You learn best practices by seeing how they handle things. And then we have deer and geese and all the problems that regionally have issues, so it's important to meet with other mayors to fix the things that we can fix together. Okay, we'll do 2 more questions. Yes?
What is it that you think about the vote that's happened?
What is it that I think about?
The vote that's
The
happened.
vote that happened? Well, I'm in a house of worship, so I don't know that I'm allowed to talk politics. I'm just happy the way the result came out, because it could have been a lot worse than it was. And I'm hoping, no matter who gets elected, that they'll do the right thing by the people in our country. That's what I'm hoping for. I was surprised over some of the elections, and I was relieved as well. I can tell you in Bergen County, we're in very good hands. The members of Congress, the county officials, and the local leaders that got elected, they're all friends and their hearts are in the right place. And the last question.
How many terms have you served?
I did 2 terms as city council, and I'm on my 4th term now as mayor. And if you think I'm tired and I'm ready to retire, I'm just getting started. That's how I feel. As excited as I am to move forward one day in politics, if I have the privilege, there's so much that needs to get done still locally here. And I kind of have a good sense of the different pressures and the beauty that the city has. And I know that could be so much more like a community center, and making sure, as diverse as this beautiful room is of children from all walks of life, that we maintain that diversity culturally in our city. That's the best resource that we have. We're a city named after trees, but we're rooted in everything for everybody. And that's how I think the city needs to continue. So until somebody presents with that kind of mentality, you can expect to see me around here, and I'll come visit you each year.